Assalamu alaikum. This is the 30th lecture of software quality assurance. In the last few lectures we have been talking about different aspects of software testing. As you know that software testing is an integral part of any software quality assurance program, and in many cases this is the only activity that companies perform as their efforts in assuring software quality. We may not agree, and we certainly do not agree with that practice. We promote and encourage professionals and companies to use as many software quality assurance mechanisms and techniques as possible so that the quality of software improves with every activity that we perform to develop software. However, we also have to recognize that software testing is and has been a very important part of every software development effort. And as the computer systems, software-based systems become complex every day, it is not prudent, it is not advisable to conduct software testing in an ad hoc fashion. And so it is recommended by the researchers, by senior practitioners, and everyone in the software engineering community that software testing must be planned. Enough resources and adequate budget should be allocated to initially plan software testing and then execute software testing according to the plan. Today, in this lecture, we are going to talk a little bit in detail about what software test planning is, and we will also look at a sample test plan. To refresh your minds, let's talk about a generic testing process. What are the major activities in a generic test process? The first and the foremost is test planning and preparation, followed by test execution and related activities, and finally there is analysis and follow-up. And now I'm going to show you these three activities in a picture form so you can visually understand the relationship that exists between these three major activities in a software testing process. So here you are looking at a generic test process. You have seen this picture before in another lecture, but I just wanted to refresh your minds and to restate the importance of the activities that are shown here and the relationship that exists between these activities. The activities that you can see on the screen are planning and preparation for tests, then there is execution and analysis and follow-up. And you can also see the relationship that is captured in the form of directed paths that exists between these important activities in the software testing process. Now, as I said, that we are going to talk a little bit about test planning, and so we will concentrate from this point onward till the end of the lecture today on test planning. As you have just seen from the picture, that test planning and preparation is the most important activity in any testing process. That is, if we want to conduct a testing process in a systematic and appropriate and proper way. If we feel that we are going to conduct software testing in an ad hoc manner, then maybe you do not want to have planning and proper preparation. But if you are committed to developing high quality software, and I'm sure you are, as a professional and as a part of any software development team or an organization, you must plan for software testing and adequately prepare for it. Most of the key decisions about software testing are made at this time. That is, when you are planning for software testing and when you are preparing for software testing. These decisions include setting of goals for testing. These decisions include selecting an overall testing strategy. This also includes preparing specific test cases. This preparation of test cases is included in the preparation activity and only briefly touched upon in the planning activity. And then you have preparation of general test procedure, the procedure that you are going to follow when the test plan is put for an execution or when the actual software testing begins. As you know, that software testing is not a single activity. It consists of many activities that are outlined in the testing strategy. And within the selected approaches, there are a number of techniques that can be employed using the number of techniques that are available, and also depending on the nature of the project and the criticality of the project. It is difficult to manage the testing of a large system, considering numerous test cases, problem reporting that is attached with every testing activity, and followed by the debugging process. Just as we plan and manage a project by estimating resources, schedule, cost, and so forth, these are the minimum things that we must plan for while we are planning for a project. We must also do the same things for software testing. That is, we must plan for resources, for schedule, and cost while we are planning for software testing. Without these things included in our test plan, the proper execution of software testing would not be possible. The planning activity enables us to perform or to do strategic thinking on what types of tests are necessary and should be executed within the constraints of time and budget. And so test planners have to be creative about selecting those test cases which can provide maximum coverage in minimal time and within the budgetary resources. And so this itself is a very important and very creative activity. During the preparation of the test plan, as each test scenario is planned, we must estimate the time that it would take to perform that test. This would obviously be an estimate based on the past experiences, based on the expertise level of the planners and also the expertise of the testers. And as companies gain experience in conducting testing, in preparing test plans, these estimates will become better and they will improve with every execution of the test plan generation. And so in the beginning, these estimates may be off with a little bit, but corrections can be made. So what we are saying is that test planning document or test plans should also be a living document in the life cycle of a software project, just as the project plan is a living document. What happens many times is that testers do not plan the test scheduling upfront. Now, when this happens, they do not make the project management committed. They do not commit with the project management that they would require at least this much time to perform software testing. They fail to allocate adequate time to test the product and conduct regression testing. Whenever you are performing software testing and you are making changes in the code because you have discovered certain defects or bugs, once these defects or bugs are fixed, regression testing must be conducted in order to ensure that whatever was already working still continues to work. If one of the test dependencies identified up front in the planning stage is receiving code on time from the development team, then the management will realize that unless the test team gets the software on time, they will not be able to complete their testing activity within the requested time. In other words, if the software is delivered late to the testing team and their time for testing the product is not increased according to the need as outlined in the test plan, then testers would be forced to take shortcuts and they will not thoroughly test the software product. And as a result, there would be probability of leaving lots of defects in the software product. And that certainly is not good from the quality assurance perspective. And it is too late to do planning when testing process or testing activity actually begins. All you can do at that time is hope that baseline designing and unit testing have been so well that everything falls into place easily. But the fact is that if you are in that situation, or your organization or your team is in that situation, things will hardly fall into place in those projects. So planning is the only reliable way to mitigate such risks, such problems. I tell you that whenever you are in that situation where you have not planned for testing appropriately and things are not going well, then things will not go well in testing as also, and as a result, the project will be delayed. Beiser claims that there is an interesting quotation that I'm going to read to you, and that is that test planning can uncover at least as many errors as the actual tests themselves. This is a statement which is a very powerful statement based on the observations of a very seasoned and senior researcher in software engineering community. And you have to think about it in order for us as a community to benefit. The benefits of performing and conducting test planning are such that we uncover as many defects as we uncover during the test activity or during software testing. Another benefit is that the software test plan serves as a service level agreement between the test department and other significantly impacted departments within that organization. These departments can be development, these departments can be QA, includes software configuration management, the requirements, and project management. The testing efficiency can be monitored and improved by developing a thorough test plan which identifies the test deliverables, functions that are to be tested, and risks that need to be mitigated if testing process, testing activity has to be conducted successfully. And so it is very important to realize the importance, the value of preparing a good test plan. A good test plan communicates to the audience the methodology that will be used to test the product. So number one, a test plan has the methodology that will be used to test the software product. It also communicates its needs, what is required for software testing, the resources, the hardware equipment, the software, or the manpower. And so a test plan must say that I need, or the testing activity needs, these resources in order for testing to be conducted successfully. And so this is a mechanism to communicate with the project management group. The test plan also communicates the schedule during which the tests will be accomplished. The detailed schedules are included in the project planning document, but test plan also has certain schedules, and we'll talk about the contents of a test plan a little later in the lecture today. And the test plan also communicates the process used to manage the testing activity or the testing project. Each one of the activities in a software development lifecycle can be considered as a project itself, and testing is no stranger. Testing is itself a project because it involves debugging, and that requires that changes to the code are also made while we are in the testing process. As I have said, that the test plan communicates the resources, and the resources includes the manpower, the people who are going to perform testing. So before you can write a test plan, you must have the names of all the test analysts, the people who are going to actually conduct the tests. The test plan also communicates the need for different softwares, and so you need to discuss and finalize the need for automated test tools that will be used on this project. And test plan also communicates the hardware needed, or the machines, the environment that is necessary for the conduct of test activity. And so before a test plan is written, these three major resources must be identified clearly and agreed on with the project management. Now, when you are developing a test plan, you have to ensure that it is simple but complete, that it remains current throughout the software development lifecycle, and that it is accessible. These are the three important characteristics that will keep the test plan a living document. It has to be simple and complete. It has to be current, so that if there are changes, they are reflected in the test plan, and that it is accessible to all the personnel who have a need to look at the test plan. The test plan should be frequently routed to the appropriate people for feedback and sign-offs, and that will also help in keeping the document alive. It will also help in reminding all the signatories to the test plan that this is their service level agreement, and they all abide by the conditions, and they all abide by the contents that have been agreed on in the test plan. A test plan can either be written by the test leader, the person who's heading the software testing group in an organization, or a test coordinator, or a test manager. So the importance is that it should be written by the person who's heading the test group or a close assistant of that person. And it gives the importance that it shows the importance the test plan has. Let's now discuss a few guidelines for developing a test plan. Depending on the features of the system, you have to determine which tests you need to perform. Once you have identified the types of tests needed to test the software system, plan on how each of these tests will be performed. So you need to develop test cases. You need to first develop a strategy. The first point was about developing a strategy. Then you would select on the procedures on how you are going to do the testing, and then you will develop a set of test cases. Before you start documenting a test plan, you need to use a template. We will discuss a template for test plan, as I've said before in today's lecture. When the contents of the test plan are finalized, you need to conduct a review for the completeness of the test plan. This review can be in the form of an inspection, or depending on the size of the organization and the size of the team, this can be an informal review. However, the benefits achieved by conducting a formal technical review or an inspection of the test plan are much more than having or conducting an informal review of test plan. And based on the review or the inspection, the feedback that you receive from the participants, you should include that or incorporate that in the test plan. Now, the test plan is ready in the sense that the developers of the test plan or the authors of the test plan have developed and gotten it reviewed by a number of people that this is a sufficient test plan for the project. Now it is time to get approvals on the contents of the test plan from managers of all the departments that will be significantly impacted by the testing activity. For example, this can be the managers of development effort, customer support, marketing, operations, integrated technology, product assurance, quality, and user management. And obviously, not every organization is going to have all these departments. Some of these may be merged, some of the departments may be missing. Depending on the line of business, depending on the size of the organization, depending on a number of factors, many of these tasks may not be performed in a small organization or a small team. But as many departments are affected by the test plan, they should be involved in getting an approval so that they are also committed with the contents of the test plan. Once you have the approvals, you need to follow the test plan to ensure that everyone on the test team uses the process outlined in the test plan. And if there are exceptions to it, they should be documented as addenda to the test plan. Now, this is very important. If we want to keep our test plans alive, if we want to keep them as what we call living documents, they must be followed. They must be acted upon. They are not just documents which are sitting on shelves in the offices, but they should be consulted, they should be faithfully followed, and the process outlined in the test plan should be implemented as accurately and as faithfully as possible. However, if there are certain deviations or exceptions, then those exceptions should be documented, and they should be documented as addenda to the test plan, and the same group which originally approved the test plan should approve these addenda items, because they are the people who are going to be impacted by the changes that are needed in the test plan. This is the same group that originally approved the software test plan, and it is that group which can approve any changes to test plan document. A well thought out test plan will save hours of frustration at the end of the test cycle, reduce risks, and provide a tool for management reporting. You see, when you have a good test plan, you can always discuss, you can always assure the management on the schedule. You can always discuss in writing with the management that these risks were identified, and some of them, there is a chance that they will arise in the test activity. And so the management becomes aware of the process of software testing as it is being conducted, and they get, usually with test plans, they get a forewarning also. So as many members of the project team should contribute to the development of the test plan document through reviews and discussion as possible. By taking everyone on board on the contents of the test plan, we get commitments from a large group of people on those contents. And participants feel committed to the plan since they have helped create it. And this is very important human psychology, that people who create things are committed to their own products. And this fosters a high degree of dedication among participants to follow what is being agreed upon and said in the test plan. So if participants accept the contents of the test plan and follow through on their responsibilities, but somehow they do not fulfill them in later stage, the management and the test plan manager can show them their agreement to the test plan in the planning stages. What I'm saying here is that if for whatever reason some participants or some departments disagree with the performance issues, performance aspects of test plan activities, the management can always show them their agreement when the test plan was being developed. So we can say that the test plan provides criteria for measurement, deadlines for test deliverables, and describes procedures for documenting and resolving problems. And this makes a test plan a very powerful and very living document, a document by which we can conduct our testing activity in a very systematic and organized fashion. Let's now talk a little bit about a sample test plan. I'm going to first list the different sections that are included in a test plan. And then we will take each section and have a brief introduction of what is actually contained in these sections. So here you have on the screen a sample test plan, the first set of activities of a sample test plan. It has sections on introduction, on scope, test plan strategy, test environment, then you have schedule, then there is this section titled control procedures, followed by a section titled control activities, and then you have functions to be tested, followed by functions not to be tested. Then there is a section on risks and assumptions. Then there's a section on deliverables, test tools. Then you have a section on approvals, and finally a section on exit criteria. So now let's discuss each of these sections and see what is contained in them. So the first section that is included in the test plan is introduction. The introduction gives a brief description of the system being tested, so anyone reading the test plan would get an overview of the features of the product being tested. So this section basically contains an introduction of the software product that is being tested. The second section is scope. The scope describes at a high level what will be tested and what will not be tested in order to avoid ambiguity, and identifies what is going to be addressed by the testers. Just like when we discuss scope of the projects at a high level, the scope of the test plan or testing activity is documented in this section. Third is test plan strategy. The test plan strategy outlines the objectives for developing the test plan and establishes the procedures for conducting the tests. So here we are getting more specific. The strategy should also identify all the tests that will be performed to check the robustness of the product. A brief description of each test should also be given in the test plan strategy. Now I'm going to show you a very good picture that captures or describes the influencing factors on test plan strategy. So here you are looking at the influences or influencing factors on test plan strategy. There are 8 of them. There's test tools, risks, application, then test environment, test requirements, review strategy, resources, and test objectives. And all of these influencing factors are influencing the test plan strategy. So let's take each one of them and describe what these factors mean. The test tools, you have what to automate and what tool to use. Then you have risks. Under that you have impact of failure and likelihood of failure. Then you have application. Under application you would have quality of software, nature of system, acquisition strategy. Under test environment you have development lab, is it alpha or beta, production duplicate or usability lab, or is it a model office. For test requirements you have completeness, accuracy, stability. Under review strategy you have walkthroughs or inspections or desk checks. Under resources you have money, time, people or skills. Under test objectives you have demonstrate usability, make it break, that is ensure that the tests indicate the failure in software, check interfaces, prevent defects or coverage. So you can see that the importance of test plan strategy, that there are a number of factors which are influencing the development of a test plan strategy. The next section in the test plan is test environment. This section lists the hardware and software configuration required to perform tests. It determines the type of help required from other departments to support the environment tests. And so the environment is an important part of any testing activity. And I'm going to show you a picture that captures the environmental needs of software testing environment. So here you are looking at another picture that demonstrates the environmental needs while conducting software testing. This also has 8 factors in it, or 8 environmental needs. There are facilities, there are personnel, then you have supplies, then you have software, documentation, you have interfaces, you have communications, and you have hardware. And under facilities, you have location, space, and security as an aspect to conduct software testing. And under personnel, there are users, developers, operators, testers, and observers. Under supplies, you have badges, forms of paper, things that you would need as supplies, office supplies. Then you have under software, you have software under test, you have operating system, you have cohabiting software that exists on the hardware, you have test data, you have test procedures. Then you have documentation, requirements, design, user documentation, and operations. Under interfaces, you have some internal interfaces and external interfaces. Under communication, you have gateways, connections, authorizations, and protocols. Under hardware, you have platforms, printers, scanners, modems, and simulators. So if you pay attention to this picture and to the sub-areas that this picture points us in environmental needs for conducting software testing, you can imagine the thoroughness that is required in the development of a test plan. Developing a test plan, developing a good test plan is not a simple task. It requires the thought process, it requires to follow that the guidelines that we have discussed before are properly followed, and it should be developed with the input from a large number of participants, so that all the aspects are covered in it. The next section in the test plan is schedule. The overall schedule is identified in the project plan, indicating the start and the end dates of test activities. However, detailed schedule of testing should be developed during test planning process, showing start and end dates for the development of the test plan, for the designing of the test cases, for the execution of the test cases, for problem reporting, and for developing the summary report that includes the developing the test summary report that includes all the findings. And so, as I had said before, that certain scheduling activities are recorded in the project plan, but certain other non-overlapping schedules are recorded in the test plan also. Then you have control procedures in the test plan. This section should have detailed instructions for problem reporting. Problems must be reported to the development team, to the project management team, if there is need for that. And a procedure for communicating defects to the development team should be established and published in the control procedures section of the test plan, so that if we have not properly documented this procedure in the test plan, then how can we assure that those problems have actually been reported to the development team? And there is no mechanism to perform the audit of the problem reporting activity. This should include whether an automated online system will be used to record and report problems, whether the problem fixes will be accepted daily or once a week or on whatever schedule that is, and how problems would be prioritized. The next section in the test plan is control activities. This section indicates when walkthroughs or reviews will be conducted and list the individuals who would be participating in those activities. The next section of the test plan is functions to be tested. This section lists all the functions that will be tested. What you test is more important than how much you test. The next section obviously is functions not to be tested. This section lists all functions that will not be testing, along with a reason for not testing them. For example, there may be some functions which are low risk code reused, and they have been previously tested with 100% satisfaction. And so in order for us to have efficient execution of testing activity, we may choose not to test certain pieces of code. The next section is risks and assumptions. This section lists assumptions taken into consideration when developing the test schedule. Examples include unit testing will be done prior to receiving code for integration. All system personnel will have the knowledge of the product and will be experienced testers. This is an assumption that we make while planning for software testing. And the computers will be available during all working hours. It may sound strange, but in certain cases, this was a risk that in certain situations you will find that organizations have only allowed testing on certain times of the day. And so you have to state this assumption and ensure and agree with the management that these are the computers and all the other labs or required equipment is available according to the need for conducting software testing. Then you have deliverables. The deliverable section lists what will be delivered at the end of the test phase. This includes the test plan, test cases, test incident report, and test summary report. Then we have test tools as another important section of test plan. This section identifies all test tools that will be used during software testing, whether they are developed in-house or need to be purchased from the market. This includes test coverage analyzers, which may be used to provide information on the thoroughness of one or more test runs of the program. And at the end of the analysis process, the analyzer produces a visual listing of the program with all unexecuted code flagged. And that way we can make management decision as to what percentage of coverage should be completed for testing. Ideally, as we have said before when we were talking about test strategy, and testing techniques that we would want to execute every statement at least once, so that we can be sure that there is no code which is untested. These tools help us in analyzing the success of software testing activity in an automated fashion. Then we have a section on approvals. This section ensures that the plan is reviewed and approved by individuals who will either be affected by it or on whom you are dependent to either receive the listing of the program with all unexecuted code flag. So all the people who have a stake in software testing, or on whom software testing depends in one way or the other, need to participate in the approval of the test plan. And finally, you have the exit criteria. This section identifies the exit criteria for the test phase. Some examples of the exit criteria include no priority 1 open problems, all functions identified in the requirements document are present and working, and no more than 3 priority 2 problems open and need to be closed. These are just examples. When we actually decide to stop testing is a topic which we will discuss in another lecture, but whatever our exit criteria is needs to be documented in the exit criteria section of the test plan. Today we have had some discussion on the importance of test planning. We talked about different activities of test planning and preparation. We discussed the importance of having a thorough test planning activity, and then following that test plan to execute effective software testing activity. We also discussed the contents of a simple test plan and took an introduction of what is contained in a test plan. In the next lecture, we will have an introduction on automated software testing. We had briefly mentioned that there are software tools known as test tools which are employed in different testing activities, and in the next lecture we will have an introduction on the issues related to automated software testing. Till then, I take leave of you. Allah Hafiz.